Okay, in this video I want to build on my knowledge of arrays, and I'm going to switch things up a bit, and we're going to have an array of questions this time and an array of answers. So in the last video we had an array which had a question and an answer in. Today we're going to have an array of questions and an array of answers. So yeah, I've got the Python idle environment here. So this is my shell. Whenever we create any code, we execute it so it runs in the shell. It's good practice to create your code in its own separate Python module. So we just do File, New, and build our code in here. So again, we're working with arrays today. So if you remember, an array is a list of items. It could be numbers, it could be strings, or any other type of data. So here I'm going to call my questions array questions, and I'm going to type some questions in here. I'm going to just make this a bit bigger so it doesn't go off the screen while I'm doing this. So, you know, we love this pentagon. How many sides does a pentagon have? That's my first item in the array. The second question is going to be what is the colour, or what colour signifies danger? What colour signifies danger? And the last one would be what year was the Bond film Spectre? Make that a couple less. Released. That's the end of my array there. So I've got 1, 2, 3 items in my array, and remember our array is 0 index, so it's 0, 1, 2 as the index of each item in that array. So I'm going to create a second array called answers, and I'm going to give it the answers to these questions in the order that these questions appear. So at the 0 index, how many sides does a pentagon have? The answer will be 5. At the 1 index, what colour signifies danger? And the answer is red. And then for the last one, what year was the Bond film Spectre released? Well, it was released this year. It's currently on at the cinemas at the time of making this video. Now let's just see what we did there. So in this array, we've got an integer, a string, and an integer, and that's perfectly fine. You can mix up integers and strings in an array, that's no problem. Python can handle that. One of the good things about Python. Okay, so I'm going to just do like a loop that's going to loop through each of these questions and ask my user to input their answer. So although I've got 3 items in the array, I actually only want to count to 2. So I want to go, the current count is 0, show this question. If the current count is 1, show this question. And if the current count is 2, show this question. So I'm going to use a while loop. Nice, easy, clean loop to use. You could use a for loop if you wanted, but I'm going to go with a while loop because I think it's quite easy to do what I want in a while loop here. It's a determinate loop. I know how many times around the loop I want to go. I've only got 3 questions, but I've got the index 2 here. Oh, I'm getting a bit of ahead of myself. I haven't created my question count variable, so question count is going to count each question each time around the loop. I'm going to set it to 0 to start with. And for this one I do want an answer variable, and I'll describe why in a minute. So I'll just create an empty string for my answer variable. Do I? No, sorry, I'm getting confused with something else I was doing. Forget about the answer variable. Just erase that from your mind and pretend that never happened. Okay, so while question count is less than or equal to 2, do something. And the something is going to happen 3 times. So the first time round, question count will be 0. The second time round, it'll be 1. And the third time round, it'll be 2. So the first time in, I'm going to get the user's guess, and I'm going to output So I use the input function to get the user's guess, and then I'll output the question, this question here, which is questions. So I'm getting the first item in my question array. Now I'm going to use this question count, to get my index. So before we would have done something like this to get the first item in the array, but because I'm using a loop and this value is going to change every time we come around the loop, I'm going to use this question count to signify the index in the array that I want to access. So this is going to say get this question of question count. So the first time in the loop the question count is 0, so it'll go to the first item in the array, and ask my user that question. Get my user to input a response to that question. And just like before, I'm adding a question mark here, so I don't have to add it 3 times here. It doesn't really matter. You could add it 3 times there, but it means if I want to change it to another symbol, I only need to do it once here. So that's getting my user's guessed. Then I want to get the answer. Actually, no, I don't need the answer. What I want to do, just like in the last video, is I want to say if user guess is exactly equal to the current answer. So I go to my answers array and I get the current index. So remember, these questions map on to these answers. So the first question at index 0 has the same answer at index 0 here. The second question at index 1 has the same answer at index 1 here. The third question at index 2 has the same answer at index 2 here. So I say if user's guess is this exactly equal to the current, should be, I'm going to call that count actually, shouldn't I? It's not a question count, it's a question and answer count. So let's just call it count. That's a more sensible variable name because I'm going to use it for both the question, to get the index of both the question array and the answers array. So we'll go down to here. We've got our count. So we're saying if the user's guess is exactly equal to the answer at the current point in the answer question answer array, then print correct, else, oh, forgot my colon again, I always forget that little tinker, print incorrect. Now remember, some of these values here are integers and some are strings, and as we found out in the last video, if you've got an integer as a value, you can't compare it to a string input, and the input function defines a string input. So we've got to use a string function to convert this answer to a string. So if the answer is this one here, we need to convert it to a string using the string function. If it's this one here, it doesn't matter, but using the string function won't create a problem. It'll just have a little bit extra processing and memory. And this one here also needs to be converted to a string. So if user's guess equals answer's guess, if user's guess equals the current answer, print correct, else print incorrect. So let's just run this and see what happens. So the first time round, I would expect, let me save this, trivia, actually we'll just overwrite that trivia apply because that was just something I was messing about with earlier. Yep, we can replace that. Oh, invalid syntax. Just like I always forget the colon on the end of the if statement, I forgot it on the while loop as well. So, brilliant. Let's run it, save it, and let's go. So, what happened there? The while loop came into here and it says, is count less than 2? Well, count is currently equal to 0 because that's what we set it to here. So then we've said, can we get, can we output the question to the user and ask the user to enter or input a response to this question? And the question it's going to ask is the question in the array, the questions array at count. So it's the first time round, so count is currently 0, so it goes to the first item or the item in the array of index 0. So it's how many sides does a pentagon have? So if we add a response there, I'm going to say 2, which is obviously the incorrect answer. I would expect that the response would be incorrect. So press return incorrect. Okay, no problem. Oh, what I didn't expect there. Okay, so what happened there was I typed in 2, so user's guess became 2. So this is if statement said if 2 is exactly equal to the item in the answers array that's at the current count, which is 0. So if 2 is exactly equal to 5, print correct, else print incorrect. Then I expect it to go to the next question in the array. Well, it didn't go to the next question in the array because it's always count is always 0. I never add 1 to count, so I missed a little bit out there. So what I actually want to do is when we get to the end of all of this here, add 1 to 0. So count plus equals 1 is the same as saying count equals count plus 1. Exactly the same. Just the shorthand version, if you like. So we'll just run this module again. So now I'm going to give it the right answer. How many sides does pentagon have? 5. Correct. I got that right. And it moves on to the next question. What colour signifies danger? So what happened there was it came round the while loop and said count now equals 1. So ask the user the question at index 1 in the questions array. Go to the questions array, got index 0 and index 1. What colour signifies danger? So if I type in blue here, I'd expect this to fail. And I'd expect it to fail because the next test will be if blue is exactly equal to the item in the answers array of the current count. Remember, current count is 1 now. So if we go to the answers array and we look at index 0, index 1, the answer is red. So I'd expect this to fail. So incorrect. Brilliant. That's exactly what I want to see. So now we're looking for index at item 2 because we've added a 1 on to count. It's the third time around the loop. So the first time around was 0. The second time around was 1. And now we're up to 2. So question 2 or question at index 2, 0, 1, 2 is what year was the Bond film. And it's going to check against the answer at index 2, 0, 1, 2. So the answer will be 215. Now I've cheated and I know the answer. I'll put that in. Correct. Excellent. And it's come to the end. I can see that it's come to the end of my program because there's 3 arrows there or 3 chevrons there. So that's it. That's the end of my question and answers. So now we can see how we can use a questions array and an answers array to be able to loop around those questions and answers to to ask some questions and test some answers. That's pretty obvious, isn't it? And I think that's a better way for those of you that are doing the assignment to do your question and answers, or ask your questions and test your answers. The only thing I haven't done, which I won't do because that would be making it too easy for you, is the randomizing of asking the questions and answers. So I'll leave that one to you to figure out. So when you do the randomizing, you're going to ask a random question. You probably won't need a while loop in because you're going to continue. Oh, actually, take that back. Erase what I just said. You will need some kind of while loop in, but it won't be for a count. It'll be some sort of test against whether your turtle has hit the finish line or not. I'll leave you with thinking about that. And I would definitely recommend do not try to go straight in and code doing questions continuously till your turtle hits the finish line. I would definitely recommend sit and plan that out, whether it's in pseudocode or a flow chart. plan it out before you start to code it or you'll get in a pickle. And that's the end of this screencast.